All right, now we're going to back up in the agenda to item 70, the Sonoma County Community Wildfire Protection Plan 2023 update. Director Wick. And thank you all for your patience. But now we're at the main event, right?
Hold on, sorry.
You might want to put that up a little higher.
Good afternoon, Chair and board members. As the Chair indicated, this is a presentation on the Community Wildfire Protection Plan. One of the joys about being the Director of Permit Sonoma is seeing the integration and support across our 6 divisions. And this is a great example of our fire experts working with our external affairs staff to produce this really great effort. And as you're hearing this combination of participation and policy and technology, I'd ask you to think about, because you're integral to these other programs, about how this work will inform and support the Hazard Mitigation Grant Program and the Building Resilient Infrastructure and Communities Program. So with that, I'll make some brief introductions and then hand it over to the people who are the real experts. So with us here today are Fire Marshal Steve Mazurchak, Department Analyst Carleone Stafford, External Affairs Marketing Specialist Christina Smith, and Deputy County Counsel Sita Katera. And then our fire partners in the room. This is going to sound like a bad rugby match. We have the Chiefs versus the Marshals. Chief Ben Nichols, Marshal Tuberville, also known as Fire Jesus in the fire community, and the Marshals, Cindy. And it's so nice to see the Marshals here in the daylight. We often are seeing each other in the middle of the night at fires or automobile wrecks. Cindy Foreman with the Sonoma County Fire Protection District, other Marshals, Trevor Smith from Sonoma Valley, Paul Lowenthal from City of Santa Rosa, and I saw the retired Roberta McIntyre representing herself as only she could, and Fire Safe Sonoma. Did I miss any of the other marshals or chiefs? Good. With that, I will hand it over to staff and look forward to the presentation.
How do we do transfer the presentation up to the? I already have it ready on the computer.
Oh, I'm sorry. Is it the microphone?
No, it's this screen from this PC.
Sorry. I think it's good.
Got it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Chairman Corsi, my name is Steve Mazurchak, Fire Marshal for the County of Sonoma, and thank you to all the board members for the opportunity to present on this 2023 update of the Sonoma County Community Wildfire Protection Plan. Each of you has supported the update and participated in the process, and we want to thank you for the support. And there we go, a little bit delay. Okay, this has been truly a collaborative effort led by Permit Sonoma Fire Prevention Division, the External Affairs staff assisted by the Natural Resources and Planning Divisions. We received great help from our project partners, as they are here in the room. Once again, Fire Safe Sonoma, CAL FIRE, Sonoma County Fire District, Santa Rosa Fire, Sonoma County Ag and Open Space, the UCCE, the Sonoma County Ecology Center, and a host of others, far more to list. Especially, I want to thank the community members who have participated in the CWPP process. I'd like now to pass this along to Caroleon to continue with the presentation.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Board. As defined by Congress in the 2003 Healthy Forest Restoration Act, the CWPP has 3 requirements. Number 1 is that it has to be developed collaboratively with input from stakeholders from the state on down to the community levels. Number 2, it has to identify and prioritize areas for hazardous fuels reduction. And number 3, it has to recommend measures to reduce the ignitability of structures. The purpose is to bring agencies, organizations, and community members together to collaboratively identify community values, wildfire issues and risks, and prioritize areas and strategies to reduce that risk. It's important to understand the role of the CWPP versus other planning documents. The CWPP's focus is on collaborative wildfire risk reduction. Other plans, such as the Emergency Operations Plan from the Department of Emergency Management and the Sonoma County General Plan, focus on specifics such as evacuation procedures and development. Following input from our steering committee, many of whom were in the room, and agencies, we held workshops in each supervisory district to meet with community members and organizations to hear about which assets they value most in their communities and how they hope to protect them from wildfire. Draft 1 included the input that we received from those meetings. 5 more community meetings were held to hear and solicit comments on the draft. Those comments were incorporated to create Draft 2. We then held 2 more review meetings and posted the draft for further comments. Throughout the CWPP process, we hosted 13 community meetings and maintained continual outreach.
Ms. Safford, excuse me. Mr. Jinkle, could you all, if you're going to have a conversation, hello? If you're going to have conversations, please take them into the lobby. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Throughout the process, we hosted 13 community meetings and maintained continual outreach through groups such as Fire Safe Sonoma and the Sonoma County Forest Working Group. During revision, we incorporated many excellent and thoughtful comments, and we really want to thank everybody who provided those comments. They truly helped this to become a better community wildfire protection plan. On the left is a screenshot of the 2023 CWPP update document. It's about 100 pages plus appendices and contains general information about wildfire in our county. It's on the sonoma.org website or through this QR code. On the right is the CWPP hub site. This interactive hub site hosts CWPP maps, project entry portal, and other resources. Here is a quick overview of what you can find in the CWPP itself. It includes general information to help residents understand wildfire and wildfire risk reduction. It provides general information about the county, discusses overall values and priorities, and more. It's a great resource to use for designing risk reduction projects throughout the county. Chapter 7 was added to address comments we received during the draft review. In it, we describe alignment with existing plans, such as CAL FIRE's Sonoma Lake Napa Unit Plan, and other plans and reports specific to Sonoma County. In general, CWPP priorities reflect those of fire agencies. That is, the first priority is protection of life and human safety. The second is property protection, such as homes and critical infrastructure. And the third is the protection of natural resources. Ideally, projects may address 2 or even all 3 of these priorities simultaneously and should exist on a continuum, such as illustrated in the illustration on the right out of the National Cohesive Wildfire Strategy, where community protection, resilient landscapes, and safe and effective fire response come together, all guided by the application of best available science. The CWPP hub site is the living, interactive part of the CWPP, and it contains a host of resources for those learning how to make homes and communities more resilient to wildfire, or those creating comprehensive risk reduction projects. The hub site will be continuously updated to announce current opportunities, provide information, and list risk reduction projects countywide. Here's a brief look at what's on the hub. First, we have our project entry portal, which is where agencies, groups, and landowners can enter prospective wildfire risk reduction projects to create the CWPP Sonoma County project list. We'll be talking more about that in a few. The Wildfire Risk Index, which was created for the CWPP, can be explored along with the Hazard Risk Index on the hub site as well. And finally, I want to call out the project planning tool, which is one of my favorite parts in the plan. It's an awesome resource for those working towards community wildfire risk reduction projects. On that, anybody can jump in there and draw a project of whatever shape and size they want. The light blue in the screen is a project that I put in. And then it's going to generate a host of really great data, population statistics, fire hazard severity zones from CAL FIRE, the Wildfire Risk Index. So it will generate all of those statistics, and with the click of one button, this is the best part, anybody in that project area, we've identified all the projects, all the impacted parcels by APN, and this will provide mailing addresses for them. This is critical for people designing risk reduction projects in their community. So this is a wonderful resource for our residents. Also on the hub site, we have grant opportunities, educational resources, and links to local CWPPs. These locally produced CWPPs have much more detailed information about the communities they cover and are an excellent resource moving forward. Having a project, I got one ahead. Many grant programs require that a project is listed in a CWPP to be considered for funding. The project entry portal, or the PEP as we like to call it, offers the opportunity for those seeking funding to list their projects. The project list, which will be updated throughout the next year, is in Appendix A of the document and on the hub site. Currently, the projects shown in the CWPP hub are those entered in 2021. This year, we coordinated with Vegetation Management Grant Program that Kim is administering to use the PEP as part of their grant application process. We'll soon be updating the map with those new projects. As far as I know, the PEP's open process to solicit and list projects that agencies and especially communities are considering is unique. In fact, Esri, who is the GIS company or behind the mapping software, recently contacted us to see if they could use our project entry portal as a model for a template that they're creating for themselves. It's an awesome tool. It'll remain a work in progress that will be refined and changed to reflect new data and tools as they're created and reflect the needs of all stakeholders. The portal is now open for agencies, organizations, and landowners to enter potential new projects or update projects that were entered in 2021. Currently, we're not ranking projects, but we have instituted a screening process for projects to be added to the CWPP project list. Only 2 criteria. First, if public lands are included in the project area, the agency needs to approve the project before it can be listed. And second, the project needs to align with one of the following CWPP risk reduction priorities. These are the risk reduction priorities as identified in Chapter 6 of the CWPP. This list was collaboratively developed through the CWPP outreach process and represents the priorities as stated by residents and agencies across the county. As you can see, there are a lot of options here, and since projects need to only have one of these, it should be pretty easy to get projects listed into the CWPP. We revised the project entry portal to make project entry as easy and quick as possible. We're using an easy sort of drop-down survey format. Projects can be entered either in a long survey or a short survey. The short survey has fewer questions. Long survey provides us with more data that we can use as we start to look at these programs across the county. Who can enter projects? Any wildfire stakeholders can enter projects, including agencies, formal organizations who have a taxpayer ID, also informal groups or even individual landowners. What we're hoping is that what we'll end up with is a very large data set that shows us where and what kind of projects are under consideration or needed. Having this large data set of suggested projects will help inform all risk reduction activities and bolster cooperation and collaboration across agencies into the future. Here's an example of some of the information that we collect in the PEP. The left shows possible project types. And on the right, for the long survey, we also asked project proponents to identify the treatment methods that they may use to accomplish the goals of the project. These project and treatment types were developed in coordination with Ag and Open Space and others to augment data that they used for the Vegetation Management Grant Program and provided a great means to get really consistent information about projects and was useful during the project review phase. We hope to increase this interagency coordination moving forward. Project proposers also must map their project areas. The hub site, both through the portal and the project planning tool, provides critical geospatial tools that small local groups might not otherwise have access to, and that can provide specific data to them for stronger proposals. Most importantly, though, the map project areas will provide us with a very comprehensive view of the projects and what kind of projects are being suggested across the county. Why is this so important? Well, first and foremost, it's going to allow us to do trend and gap analysis. Are there areas that are over or underrepresented? What's the balance between near home and large scale landscape projects? Are low income and access and functional needs population adequately represented? Listing and mapping projects will also provide a pipeline for projects ready to implement if funding becomes available, as suggested in the Governor's Wildfire and Forest Resilience Task Force Action Plan. For example, the map on the right up there represents the 2021 CWPP and Vegetation Management Grant Program projects overlaid on the project area for Permit Sonoma Natural Resources Division's Hazardous Fuels Reduction Project. We used those projects from the CWPP to take a first look for proposed projects that were within the fuels reduction project areas. These projects help us to make up a list of possible treatment areas for the HAZ fuels. The list was further refined and prioritized by fire agencies and other stakeholders, and now selected projects are moving forward. The collaboration and coordination that this process brings about will really help us foster excellent relationships and communication across agencies, non-governmental organizations, the state, and others moving into the future. Our next steps are to incorporate the CWPP into the Sonoma County Multi-Jurisdictional Hazard Mitigation Plan, which will be incorporated by reference into the upcoming update of the Sonoma County General Plan safety element. We're also going to continue to accept new projects in the portal and refine the prioritization process through integration of tools such as the Wildfire Resilience Planner as they become available. The Sonoma County CWPP and grant programs that we have launched have attracted interest from organizations across the country, from ESRI to the National Cohesive Wildfire Strategy and the National Fire Protection Association, or NFPA. I've recently been invited to present information about the CWPP and our other grant projects at their annual meeting in June, which is kind of an exciting opportunity to highlight the awesome work we're doing in Sonoma County. We're proud of this groundbreaking work that we're doing for wildfire resiliency, and we thank you for your participation in the process.
Thank you. Something that's so serious and important shouldn't be so fun, but the tools that are available here are not only really valuable, but they're also really interesting to play with. So, questions from the board? Supervisor Gorin.
Thank you. Thank you all. Boy, this has been such a learning experience and certainly evolutionary over the past 5.5 years. We've learned so much. But as I said during the briefing, I'm in awe of all of you and your incredible work product that you're bringing forward now. And a lot of community meetings went into this, but I know that you are the experts, the subject matter experts that really develop the tools and develop the format going forward. And Carol Leone, I'll relate once again. I first met you up at Monan's Rill when you educated me about wildfire protection plans for that community. And we know, sadly, that community was significantly devastated during the glass fire. And I know that your efforts there helped to preserve a number of structures up in that intentional community that is surrounded by thousands of blackened fir trees up and down St. Helena Road. So thank you for this. Thank you for this work product. And I know I've connected you with folks from other states working on similar tools, and they also say, wow, Sonoma County is at the forefront of this work, which is so relevant and increasingly important for the West as we're so damaged by the devastating megafires that are happening all over the West. I guess the only question that I have that someone brought to my attention is we are now allocating funding for a number of vegetation management projects, and this will be the key coordinating tool for a lot of those projects. How do we contemplate going back a couple of years later and saying this project was really important and produced some long-term benefits rather than just short-term, we're cutting the 3-foot tall grass? How do we have a mechanism yet to really monitor what we're doing?
You know, we do have a question in the project entry portal that pertains to, have you come up with a maintenance plan for this project? The reality of doing fuels management in Sonoma County is that any project is going to last about 5 years. We get rain, stuff grows back. So really, vegetation management in Sonoma County is much like painting the Golden Gate Bridge. You start at one end, and when you get to the other end, you go back and you start again. And that's really what we're up against, because we live in an area that has a lot of growth out there. And so one of the things that will hope that the project entry portal and the list will do eventually is really be able to plot those projects temporally so that we know, oh, that project's coming up again, we're back at that end of the bridge, so that we can really start looking at maintenance of these projects over time as part of the component of what we need to do to prioritize projects across the landscape.
And that likens back to the property owner responsibilities. And as you're sitting here talking about, okay, the cycle begins again, and the record-setting rains that we had, and now 3-foot tall grass. Yes, I'm already cutting down the grass, but I still have some permanent fuel treatments to limb up and figure out how to get rid of all of the limbs and all of the vegetation that I'm creating. So that's not only me, but a lot of property owners, absentee property owners. And I hope that we get to the place where we do truly identify those absentee property owners to provide a nudge or ways that folks living along Cavedale Road can have assessment districts created to help with the fuel treatments along the road. And so that would be my recommendations for the future, not only monitoring, but to make it easier for those WUI areas to use potentially assessment districts to capture some revenue to help those areas respond to their fuel treatments and that cycle that begins over and over and over. Thank you. You guys rock. You're fabulous. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Supervisor Gordon.
Any other questions? We'll go to
Playing with the map.
Yeah, we're not getting him back.
That's what everybody always does. I talk, they play with the mouth.
All right, we'll go to public comment on this item. Anyone here in the chambers want to address the board on item 70?
Yeah, Michael Hilbert. I'd like to bring up something I heard being advertised on the radio, on the news called No Mo May, and county hasn't adopted it certainly, but it's being promoted Bay Area wide, and the idea is that the grasses and things like the milkweeds or whatever is beneficial for the butterflies and beneficial insects, and they say pollinators in general. So I don't personally have an opinion on it, but I tend to mow like later than they want, and certainly I think I like to let the grass grow green and set seed, and that's the best way to go in my opinion. So I'm not advocating no mow May, but generally how I approach things is, wait till the grass is starting to feel the heat of summer and start to dry and the seeds are set. And, it's not helpful to mow prematurely, especially if I see people mowing in February and early March. I don't like to see that. I don't think it's good for the environment.
I'm short. Hi, I'm Roberta McIntyre. I'm the president and CEO of Fire Safe Sonoma. I am a volunteer. I'm not getting paid today. Just want to
Thank you for
always
your
remind
patience.
you guys of that. And also to remind you that Fire Safe Sonoma is the countywide Fire Safe Council. We're like the mothership for a lot of local firewise communities and local fire safe councils. I want to thank you all for putting forth the effort to find funding and staff and resources to make this plan a reality. It's much better, I think, than the one that Fire Safe Sonoma helped author many years ago with Carleon's assistance. And also, speaking of Carleon, I want to thank Carleon for championing this project all the way through with the county and the county staff to make this reality. This is like a freaking movie premiere. This is awesome, you guys. This is amazing. And I do want to take a minute to speak to Supervisor Gorn's question about, I think fundamentally what you're asking, Supervisor, is how do we know if what we're doing is working? It's fire prevention. It's hard to tell. When a fire occurs, whether it's in a building or in a wildland situation, we go out there, firefighters go out there, it gets extinguished, and you almost never hear about it. And until the fire becomes so large, it becomes news. So it's really hard to tell with fire prevention how well you're doing. However, with the larger fires where you get all the resources attached to it, you always know about those. So over time, we'll watch this, we'll see how things work out, and we'll look at trends and identify where it's working and where it's not as best we can. But it's fire prevention, it's hard to tell. So I also want to mention that this plan is so amazing that with Fire Safe Sonoma, we use it routinely. Right now, we are finishing up 4 local community wildfire protection plans, and I tried to get the signature requests out to you guys last night, but I got too busy. You'll see some, Supervisor Gorin, you're going to see 2 headed your way. Supervisor Hopkins, you're going to see 1 coming your way in the next couple of days for local plans. So what we do, Fire Safe Sonoma, this...
Roberta, I need you to wrap up in 15 seconds or so.
Okay, yeah. This plan allows Fire Safe Sonoma to help our firewise communities and our local fire safe councils get to where they need to be. It's a huge asset for us. It's saved us countless hours and time and money. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate your work. Your volunteer work.
Good afternoon, Chairman Corsi, Supervisors, Council, and Administrator. I'm here to just sort of applaud the collective work that's happened here. You've been involved in this. I've been on Zoom meetings with many of you. You've all invested in this process. Director Wick, Fire Marshal Mashurshak, and certainly Caroleon Safford. I'm not even going to use her job title because it just doesn't seem appropriate to me. It should be, something like extraordinaire. I don't know what, but the work that you've done is amazing. The collaborative work that's been done, I think I speak for all my colleagues in this room. We've all had a voice. We've all felt heard. We felt included. And I truly believe this was a collaborative effort. However, thank you for all your hard work. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in chambers want to address the board on this issue? Come on down.
Good afternoon. My name is Kim Batchelder. I am the Vegetation Management Coordinator for Sonoma County Ag and Open Space to manage the Vegetation Management Grant Program that the county offered through the PG&E Settlement Fund. I've known Caroleon since I landed in Sonoma County about 18 years ago, and she's been participating in the Forest Working Group. And my astonishment of who she is and what she does and her ability to connect with people on this really important issue of defensible space and home hardening and how do we protect our communities has been essential to helping to educate more and more people on this subject matter. Now, as a vegetation management coordinator, I've seen this program start with a kind of a shotgun approach to where we should be doing grant programs. In 2021, we were able to support grants in many parts of the county. In 2022, we were getting more organized, and I really thank the CWPP as part of that tool to really get us to that point where we understand where those projects should be taking place and try to encourage the technical assistance, the collaboration of all the different organizations that it takes to implement these types of grant programs. So now we are in 2023, and we postponed the request for proposals for the vegetation management program until the CWPP project entry portal was developed, and we can get that collaboration through the vegetation management grant program to work simultaneously with the development of entering these projects into the portal. So we now have that spatial analysis that we can do after the effect to be able to see exactly where we're missing or where we should be supporting projects. We did an exercise through the last grant program where we took the projects and took their spatial representation to understand exactly how does it impact the communities that are closest to the project area, as well as where the tendencies of fires are occurring. So I just wanted to indeed support the project and the type of work that Caroleon has led, and I really appreciate all the effort you've done. Thank you.
Thank you. Come on up. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, board. Thank you very much for allowing me time to speak. I want to take a moment to recognize this amazing woman here to my left, that it's a product of her blood, sweat, and tears and passion that she's had before 2017 and ever since then on not only the first draft of the county CWPP, but also the product you have here in front of you today. So I can't thank her enough for her motivation and drive to make things better for the county as a whole. And the project entry portal tool is an amazing tool that, to Mr. Batchelder's point, allows multiple agencies as well as grantees that are out there looking to do work to make sure that we're not siloized in what we're trying to do out there and work together to carry the load, because no one entity, no agency, no community can do it by themselves. And so it's the collaborative effort together that's going to get a different spot here in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't see anyone else in chambers. Marcy, let's go online.
Thank you. Please raise your hand or press *9 on your phone if you're a phone-in attendee and would like to comment on item number 70 on today's agenda. There's one hand raised. Just one moment. Sachi, please go ahead.
Thank you very much, board and everyone in attendance. My name is Sashi Sabaratnam. I'm with UC Cooperative Extension. I'm the Wildfire Vegetation Mitigation Program Manager. And it has been my privilege to be able to work with Carol Leone and the team on the CWPP. And as you know, I was previously on the Mill Valley City Council and was a founding board member of the Marin Wildfire Prevention Authority. So I have some experience with CWPPs and other counties. And this CWPP has a lot of really unique features, as Supervisor Gorin highlighted, as Carol Leone highlighted, the Wildfire Risk Index, the attention to all the different components in that, including the roads component, is really unusual. And as Supervisor Gorin highlighted, it's really important to note that there are jurisdictional and kind of government responsibilities, and then there are responsibilities of individual property owners and of neighborhoods. Fire knows no jurisdictional boundaries. Having a CWPP allows you to see where the risks are and what the risks are relative to the assets that are important to the community. So the entire purpose is to get that outreach with the community to really identify what things are important, because you can't do everything, just as Carolyn mentioned, painting the Golden Gate Bridge back and forth. So having this document is just a really important step. And I'm hoping that the board and the community organizations that have put this together will continue to support updating the hub site so that it continues to be a resource and a source of coordination of all of our work together to make this community safer. Thank you so much.
Thank you. That will conclude public comment.
Thank you, Marcy. Well, there weren't a whole lot of questions from the board, but I think that is also a testament to what so many people have said today, is that you've all made this a very inclusive process. You've kept us informed along the way. You've made it interesting. It's not just an exercise in a planning document for a shelf. So are there, Supervisor Hopkins, go ahead.
I just want to express my gratitude and add that I do believe extraordinaire is an appropriate job title or suffix. And one thing that I want to mention, the fact that this has been so collaborative, so inclusive, and you've kept us updated throughout the process, the fact that we're creating a living document that isn't static, where we're picking winners and losers, from the beginning is critical. And I also just want to highlight the fact that although this is a, wildfire-oriented document, what we saw in January of this year is that those sort of wildfire prevention projects actually have tremendous benefits during the winter. And so I just want to personally thank Carol Leone for the work that you did in terms of roadside vegetation management, because there was one road on the North Coast that stayed open during the windstorms that tossed around redwood trees like matchsticks. And it was the road that you had secured grant funding for, and that we were able to actually go in and get the dead and dying trees. So I am looking forward to more of those dual sort of benefit types of projects that will, quite frankly, keep our firefighters out of harm's way. Because in January, we had an assistant fire chief from the North Sonoma coast who was actually injured trying to clear a tree while another tree came down. And so I think it's wonderful that we can go forward with something that will make us resilient, both in flood and in fire. And it's just wonderful to see the support and the partnership and collaboration with all of our fire agencies, and in particular with CAL FIRE. So thank you all so much for your work. And it really says something when we don't have questions, right? Because we like to talk, we like to ask things. So thank you.
Supervisor.
As much as these days the new normal has been this adage that's used to kind of invoke kind of the disruption of our day and the fear and the other things, I really believe the new normal is how we adapt, our resiliency. These chambers not being full and us not being full of questions is a testament to the work and the institutional work that we've asked you all and said we would support, but you're doing it. And I think it's really important when people aren't paying attention to do damn good work, and to continue to lean in. And that's we always kind of said to ourselves is that, the years of complacency are what led us to, in part, what we went through in 2017. Now, no one could change the winds that night. No one could change the overgrowth and the other things, but the system, the countywide system, and this being an underpinning, a data-based one, is so impressive. Taking that to a next level is that now when we have a conversation with, for instance, like representatives of the insurance industry, and they look at our tools and they're like, holy crap, that's really impressive. I want to see more. I want to follow up. Seeing how this prepares us for the future, whether it's partners, to be able to certify our work and our programming, or whether it's for us to get other grants and FEMA and BRIC and to report back. It's just the right way rather than just throwing a bunch of initiatives together and shaking them around all the time and acting like that's progress. So sincere appreciation to you all for your work. Thank you.
All right. If there are no other comments, I'll accept a motion on this to accept the report.
I move to accept a report.
Second.
Way to go.
This report, excuse me, not a report.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Good job.
Also need to find that the activities constitute a project that otherwise would be exempt from.
We also need to find that these activities do not constitute a project or are otherwise exempt under the California Environmental Quality Act.
So
I move that.
moved. Yeah, gotcha. Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Wait, what?
Thank you very much.
I was projecting. You see, I gotcha.
Uh-oh, you're turning into a lawyer.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for your patience. We are now to Section 9 of the agenda, public comment for matters not listed on